Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Off to Tampa we go. Hi, everyone. The Rams don't care. We do. We'll see if Tampa does. Can they stop us? Who knows? Who knows?
That's right. I think one of the last things I said to you on my show saying goodbye was hopefully they make it easy on you so you don't have to fry your voice out in the fourth quarter. Well,
yeah, right.
That didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
I think I jinxed that one.
It was in the middle of the third quarter when it was like 10-9.
Yeah.
When I just said to blurt it out to London, I go, you didn't think this was going to be easy, did you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't been watching us if you think we're going to have it easy with anybody here.
Sure.
That was actually across the league. All these games were close. Green Bay, I guess, kind of needed to win if they cared. Didn't.
They were trying, though.
Saints took the Buccaneers down to the wire.
Yeah.
Bryce Young beat Atlanta with 40-something points. Mm-hmm. Listen, except for the Chiefs who just bailed, on their game, everyone else was in a dogfight in week 18. It's pretty crazy.
No, I mean, it was a legit witching hour too. I mean, the way, I don't know how much you could pay attention during the game, or I don't know if like CJ was feeding you what was happening in that Green Bay game, but it was
scores. I can't tell you. All I know is what scores are. That's all.
No, but it was like, oh, Green Bay's going to win now. And like, oh, now we have to drive and score. And Green Bay scored before Mariota threw it to Terry. It was a really fun watch, at least for the seating wise. I know neither team really had much to play for to get in, but it was really fun those last couple of minutes.
Yeah. I don't know what to say anymore about this because it happens every week and it's uncanny. So we might have the force. Not totally sure. I have no other real explanation for it anymore. But if you leave time for this team, now it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
Right.
We will use the force on you. And it is, bar none, by far, not close, the most clutch team I've ever seen. Maybe outside of that Nats World Series run team, I've never seen anything like this. Now, granted, the games really start to count now.
Sure.
So let's see if this carries over. But it's uncanny. And the locker room was funny yesterday because finally we could all just start acknowledging this is nuts that they do this every single week.
No, I thought yesterday was perfect in the way of how many times have we had games where our season's over with, but they, as Joe Gibbs would say, fight their guts out and suck you in. And then the Cowboys would beat us, or the Eagles would beat us, or the Giants would beat us at the end of the year and suck you in and just go, God, that was a gut punch at the end of the season. It was nice to finally do it on the other side there, where you suck those Cowboys fans in thinking, oh, they're playing Jayden and they're playing in the second half. And then you just dagger them at the end. It's the best feeling to have not just the one guy, because Mariota did it yesterday, but the whole entire team just kind of knows, you left too much time. We're just going to go down and do the thing. And not only did they do the thing, they did it going to McLaurin, breaking the record. It was such a great exclamation point to what has been like one of the most, I would say this, the most fun regular season of my lifetime.
Oh,
it was such a great exclamation point.
I think it's my favorite since I was a kid. It's not close. We had a couple of good years with Joe Gibbs, and it was really cool professionally to cover a Joe Gibbs team and do shows with him and be there every day with him. I'll never forget that. That was really cool. But the teams didn't play like this. They were good. A couple of them made the playoffs. In fact, he's the last one with a playoff win. So
in Tampa.
Against Tampa. So there's a lot of weird synergy going on here because Dan Quinn yesterday became the only other coach besides Joe Gibbs to ever have a 12-win season. So there's a lot of weird synergies that are going on. They tied the 1991 team for points scored in the season. Tied them, right? So it's like a lot of weird things are aligning up. The stars are aligning up there, which is why I do believe we have the force now. And we've used it for good. And yesterday was the epitome of it because it's Mariota now. I'm still not entirely clear why the change was made. I think Dan Quinn's going to get asked about it today at the time that we're airing this. If you're hearing this podcast later and Dan Quinn already spoke, we're taping this before he spoke for his Monday afternoon press conference. And I think he's going to get asked about it because in the aftermath of yet another crazy win at the last second. McLaurin breaks this record. They've won 12 games. It's all really good here. You know, I think overlooked was Jayden was the only starter that was actually pulled. So I'm waiting for a little more explanation about what actually happened there. Because if it was minor injury and we're just not going to risk it for the playoffs, I totally get it, right? But it was odd that Luvu went down, came back.
Yep.
Brandon Coleman went down, came back.
Yep.
No other starter was pulled during any of this. So I do want a little more information about what the decision was about yesterday.
I believe he did say out loud it was because of a like minor soreness. I think that was the quote used on his leg. And
I think there's a follow-up there, though. I really do, because Coleman went down, and I even said, I'm like, well, they can't put him back in. Like, just, but they did. You know, right. So I don't know.
I mean, look, if there's one guy that you literally cannot afford to lose, it is that guy. Because if Coleman goes down, guess who has to overcome that? Jayden, right? Like, I mean, if the defense is giving up more points, guess who's going to have to overcome that? Jayden scoring more points. So, like, he is the linchpin to all of it. If there was a guy that needed to just be careful with, you know, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it.
I've been saying this for weeks. My line with him is protect him at all costs.
Correct. Exactly.
He's just, we haven't had someone like this in a long time. Our, you know, no offense to Marcus, but, you know, we will go as far as 5 will take us.
He knows. Right? He knows that. I don't know. You're not offending anybody.
You will take me to Jayden now.
Yes.
You know, like so that we're like, you will take me to Jayden now. But I do want to hear the follow up on that, because in the aftermath of it, again, another win, another crazy win. Another against all odds win. The second time in 3 weeks now. They were outplayed, outgained, out everything by Dallas.
Completely outplayed.
And won, not unlike the Philadelphia game where they a million mistakes, a million turnovers, kind of against all odds. If you look at the stat sheet, you're going to look at this and go, I don't know how they won. And I'll tell you, it's the red zone defense more than anything. And then what Mariota did. But let me just go back to him for a minute, because I don't want to lose sight of. So he comes in, he hasn't played in weeks, right? The throw he made to Terry, I thought London was really funny on the air. He goes, do you think they even practiced that ever? Or he goes, when did they do that? May? Like, right. Because once it became clear that that wasn't pre-planned, and Mariota confirmed that was not pre-planned to put him in the second half, they didn't have any reps together. They haven't had any reps together in weeks. But McLaurin hasn't been even a full participant in practice for a couple of weeks now running here. So I loved what McLaurin said about it. He goes, we tried that play on the 2-point conversion. It didn't work. So I pulled Marcus aside and told him this is like what we want to do a little bit different. And then they go back to it for the must-have moment, and it's just there. They've got the force. It takes them 5 seconds to recalibrate with one another, and all of a sudden they score. It's crazy.
I mean, not to take away from Mariota, but if we've ever had an example of a wide receiver being quarterback proof, it is 17.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, like, the dude has caught passes from, I don't know, Haskins, Keenum, Alex Smith, Colt McCoy. I don't know. We keep going down the list here. Jayden, of course, Mariota, Heineke, Fitzpatrick, Garrett Gilbert. Like, the guy can catch the balls from anybody at this point. So.
You know, when we do his Hall of Fame candidacy, okay, I can already tell you what it's going to be. They're going to tell me he's not Jamar Chase. He's not Justin Jefferson. They're going to say peers. They're going to say he's not Tyreek Hill. They're going to say his peers. And I'm going to go, okay, but
right.
Let me just paint a picture for you for a moment here, and then explain to me how he got to these numbers, because any normal human being wouldn't have in their career, nor would they have stayed in that place in their career after they had 58 different quarterbacks, and none of them could do anything to get them going anywhere until 5 showed up.
That's right.
So,
no, it's exactly right. And so, yes, the throw and catch was great, but I will just say, 17 catches it from anybody. We saw it last year. Remember, Brissett came in a couple of times. And those two, they looked like they'd been thrown together for years. So, like, I'm just saying, like, 17, you just throw it up to him. That was always the meme with Heineke.
I told him this a couple of years ago after one of the seasons when he had a 1,000-yard year. And I just told him, I'm like, it is a privilege to call your games. It really is. Like, the way you conduct yourself, the professionalism, And obviously all these big moments, your competitiveness. I just told him, I'm like, it is just an honor and a privilege to call your games. Like I'm not kidding about him being like a Hall of Famer one day. He keeps doing things like this. He might post numbers that are big enough to talk about it. Like, I don't know. He's clearly a Ring of Famer on this team. And I was glad he set the standard. And don't hit me on it was a 17th game. All the seasons from here forward will be 17 or more games. All the records will be reflected by what happens in a 17 or more longer season. So stop with that, because if that's your position on any of these things, then none of them, like none of the ones in 16 games should count then, because those were broken from seasons that were 14 games years ago. So it's the single season record. He owns it now. Saquon might have been the single season rush leader. Mike Evans got to 1,000 yards again yesterday. It all counts. Like, I hate that. Like, well, it doesn't count because it's a longer season. Neither does Eric Dickerson's then, if that's what we're going to do here.
No, 100% too. And like, I couldn't help but feel exactly how what happened with Mike Evans, a little bit like McLaurin. Like, remember last year they were trying to get him the ball at the end. Thing. Yeah, did the same thing. We're trying to feed him the ball to get him. It was over 1,000 last year, right? Remember, is that what it was last year at the end?
He had to get over 1,000. He only needed like 20 yards or something in the last game, and they didn't get it to him.
Right.
And then it was like, get a message down to the sideline. He needs like 8 yards at the end of the game, and they ran a play for him at the end of the game on purpose. And you could see the same thing happened with Evans yesterday. That team blocked their ass off for him.
Exactly.
To make sure that he got it.
No, and that's exactly like what I was thinking yesterday when that happened with Evans. I couldn't think, but those two wide receivers are kind of one and the same, that they are beloved by their teams and their fan bases because they're just dogs. So yeah, I mean, that's what it reminded me of for sure.
The other one too was 4th and 1. Mariota yesterday, 4th and 1. So this is what he's actually great at. He pulled off what was his real super skill. And when we prepared to play them in Atlanta a couple of years ago, this is what he's really great at. He and Daniel Jones are amazing at these fakes. Like, whether you think he faked out the Dallas defense so bad that one of the people in the secondary started cheering because they thought they had tackled Brian Robinson, but he had the ball. He's amazing at that. Then he was sprung free. I thought he was going to score, and that set up what was the end of the game. And again, they have composure. They know what they're doing. They handle the clock well. Don't underestimate all of that. I've been meaning to talk to Quinn about this. They brought in a lot of people to help with all of these different scenarios, when to use timeouts. I've been screaming about this for years, why teams don't have a time management person there, a rules expert, a time management person to be in the ear of the coach at the time saying, do this, do that in these moments. It will help you forget just winning games. It'll help you not lose games. Yep. Atlanta needed it a week ago when they played us badly, like really badly. Every week there's a game or two where you go, what was that coach thinking? We haven't really had any moments like that. The one was the Philadelphia game where everyone complained that they were too slow moving the ball down the field. And in hindsight, I would agree with that. But that game felt really over to me. But still, I would agree, like, if it's the we're never going to quit mentality, then you don't act like you're going to take your time when you need 2 scores down the stretch. So I'll hear that one out. But how many times all these end-of-game scenarios outside of the Hail Mary, like, they've been actually handled very well. Like, nobody's freaking out. Everybody knew what to do. They got the ball down. Dallas wisely was not trying to let them spike it very quickly. They did get it down. They didn't have a timeout. They took the timeout. No, they didn't have a timeout left. So they had to get the right play in. They did. This is a lot of this stuff at the end of the game too, is they are prepared. No one freaks out. Everyone's on the same page. They're prepared to win. And Mariota proved this. Here's their backup quarterback pulling it off at the end of the game. Not only pulling off a big run, wherewithal to know you've got to call timeout, wherewithal to know you've got one play anywhere on the field, but you got to spike it, do it, and then have something set up. And they built a play, give Kingsbury credit, where they got a one-on-one with their best receiver on one side of the field. Like, the operation worked really well again yesterday.
No, 100%. I actually would circle back to that very first game in Tampa. That game was out of hand in the second half, but they were running hurry up offense. They were running, a hurry up with Jayden in his very first game. And I remember that was one of the few takeaways from that game was he had a handle on the offense pretty well for a week 1 rookie starter. And all they did from there on out was get better, but it also means they practice it so much that they are used to this scenario too. And Mariota's a professional too, so good on Mariota for never really losing that. I mean, granted, he played college in Oregon, so that was what they did, right? That's all they ran essentially. So he never lost that. But yeah, it's a testament to what they did in the summer, honestly. Like, you don't get to that scenario unless you practice it basically all year long and you implement it really early on.
Yeah, it was cool to talk to Marcus after the game about it, because like everyone saw this clip of him building up Jayden the week before.
Yeah.
And then I saw Jayden was the first one off the sideline, like so excited for Mariota. So they've had chemistry from the get-go too. It's been real. It's never been not talk. They have a special team. And I can't wait to see where it goes next, honestly, with them.
I think it was the Post last week, too, that did the piece on Mariota.
I told Sam 48 that. It was terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam did such a great job on that, because you and I, like, we didn't really know what was going on, but we've talked about Mariota over the years, especially off of the quarterback show where we were like,
and then he left the team.
Yeah.
Remember, we were even going like, does this guy even like football anymore?
That's right. Right, yeah. Exactly. And like, you don't want to ever assume anything, but you and I were kind of like, man, is this guy ever going to be, ever going to revamp his career? And he goes to Philly, and we didn't even really know. And like, these are the things that I like to know, with athletes. Like, let us know when these things are going on. So it was a great piece, but like off of that piece and then doing what he did yesterday was really cool.
The things that really helped them yesterday too was the red zone D. Gave up 1 touchdown and 6 trips to the red zone. Is that Lance's inexperience? Maybe. Is that they don't have CeeDee Lamb? Maybe. Is that Rico Dowdle's actually been pretty good down the stretch here, but isn't the classic going to finish a drive type of player? He only had 3 or 4 touchdowns the whole year, so they don't rely on him to be the hammer when they need him to be. So, that in that regard, they caught a little bit of a break. Like even last week, I know like the Penix move was probably the right thing for Atlanta to do. I don't know. They didn't make the playoffs, so maybe it wasn't. But in the end, like I get it after seeing him, but it's a really risky thing to do to just throw somebody out there like that, even as high a draft pick as he was. And where I think you saw it against Penix was they had no deep touch on their passing game at all. Like they could not connect on anything down the field. And I don't think that's Penix. I think they haven't practiced together very much. And it's hard to hit shots like that when you haven't practiced together very much. And this is different because the Cowboys really had nothing to lose and they really just wanted to see Lance play. And I really kind of don't blame them. But all of that type of really really, really specific detail, red zone, deep passing game, it wasn't there for him because he hasn't practiced very much with the team. And even if he did, it wouldn't have been with those players that were out there. So I actually thought Trey Lance acquitted himself very well. And in the spots where we were ready and they weren't, because they had an inexperienced quarterback in spots where you got to be very, very precise, we caught a break, really.
No, absolutely. The inexperience was key here. And what I will say is this defense too, like this is going to have to be their mantra in the playoffs. It's going to be bend, don't break. Like you and I have talked about it all season long, how you basically just need to keep it within 1 score and get the ball to 5. I mean, that is the mantra of the team right now. And to get some red zone stops, get some, some confidence going there. There were a couple of good, 3rd and short stops they had yesterday too, especially when Dallas was trying to run the ball, that I thought was kind of like, okay, like get this confidence going here because you guys need to be just good enough in the playoffs and get the ball back to number 5 and you'll be good enough. I'm with you. Like I know it was some inexperience, but it is nice to get that experience under your belt.
I am very, I've been sold outside of Jayden Daniels. I've been sold on, after seeing it to believe it, that they do roll deep, as they like to say, that missing a person here or there is not going to change much for them. But I will say this confidently. I think they need Marshawn Latimore to be healthy because it's a vulnerability. And I don't want to dump on one player, but it's over and over and over. He's gotten a lot of penalties. I think one was a reputation one yesterday, but the other one wasn't. And it's every week. And he's going to get picked on, no doubt. He's going to get picked on. So I'm hoping, I think they need Marshawn Latimore to be healthy to make a serious playoff run, especially when you've got receivers like it's going to be Mike Evans this week. And if they were to win, in all likelihood, it would be Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and the Lions. Like he's going to have to be healthy for them, I think.
Not only that, I mean, it's going to be a storyline watching this all week is Latimore versus Evans again, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a great storyline heading into this game. And
they really don't like each other. Yeah.
I was going to say they hate each other and amp it up with the playoffs like LFG. Like, I want to see this on the field, whether you're a fan of the team or not. But you need him there just to mess with Evans a little bit. And if you get Evans best, fine. Like, that's what GOATs do, right? But like, they need him on the field for this one in particular, especially with the familiarity with that team with him.
One other thing from Mike McCarthy. So I want to thank him for that late punt.
Oh my God. It's so terrible. So bad.
So why did they go for it at the end of the first half, only to not go for it late in the second half where they could have buried them? Like that would have been it if they had made that. And who knows if they would or they wouldn't, but I was surprised I thought for sure they were really going for it. And I actually thought it was the right thing to do because if you haven't watched this team at the end of games, you've done yourself a disservice. You've missed the best show in sports and you could be a victim of it. And you are, because I don't know why he did that. I kind of understood the end of the first half. It felt like, we got nothing to lose. Let's just see if we can score here. Okay, fine. If that's your attitude, why did you then, turtle up and not do it at the end of the game when you really should have done it? So thank you, Mike, for that decision.
Yeah, like it's almost really weird. Like you weren't playing to tank. That was clear. But when that decision was made, I know they had the lead, but I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, just go for it. Your season's lost anyways. You have the lead. You might as well. And when I saw they were taking the clock all the way down just to punt, I was like, oh man, this is like, you already kind of know the tide was going to turn at that point.
Yes, absolutely. All right. I say this now, and I say it now because we're taping, and I don't know what's going to happen today, and it is Black Monday, and I'll get to some of the ones that we know about in a little bit, but I do think he's going to return. Okay. So I'm just saying this now, and if in an hour and a half when you see this, or play this, and you're like, you're stupid, then just know I am time stamping this, that we are saying this Monday morning before any decisions have been made. The deal with his contract is they have an exclusive window week to talk to him. His entire staff, supposedly, or the majority of them, none of them are under contract. So if Jerry Jones wants to retain them, he's going to have a lot of work to do over the next week. And then I guess he could just say, we are going to do something else. So that could happen today. It's my gut as of right now that they're going to find a way to have some middle ground. And I'll tell you why. Because like I'm watching them, how competitive they were down the end of the season. They did not quit on this dude. They are very well coached in general, I think. I'm sure the Dallas people could parse out differently, but that's not a poorly coached team. They're a very well coached team. They were missing Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, DeMarcus Lawrence, Trayvon Diggs. I'm probably missing others that they were like, we're talking 4 or 5 top flight Pro Bowl and best at position type of players that were not on the field for them. And they were in every game down the stretch here, with the exception of that Eagles game a week ago. And if you ask Micah Parsons, he'll tell you it was just a couple of plays or the score would have looked different, whether you believe that or not. But in general, every game they played, they either won or were right there, including yesterday. They've already made their bed with Dak Prescott by giving him the extension. So I would ask, why would you change the coach if it's working with him and you're going to run it back with the major core of this team outside of giving money to Micah? You're running it back with the major core of the team. I think he comes back unless he doesn't want to, which I don't believe that to be true. I'm sure he wants to come back. And this idea that he's going to go be the free agent around with all these other jobs, do the Jets want to hire him? Maybe not. Like I think he ends up being the coach there again, personally.
No, I agree. And I think this started last week where the players were starting to bang the drum for him too. Like even Micah Parsons was saying that they love him, that they want him back. And like when that's happening, that's when you kind of know it's not on him. The injuries have caught up. And look, you and I we've paid attention. Washington fans have paid attention enough to Dallas because we've been scoreboard watching for the Eagles and watching them on primetime and stuff. Like, I've been fairly impressed with what Cooper Rush has done with the cast of characters that he's been given. It was funny that Eagles
half their offensive line, not their best receiver. Their voids were open. Like, we knew they didn't have a good running game coming in. Like, that was going to be the deficiency. They haven't had DeMarcus Lawrence is a double-digit sack guy every year. They haven't had him the whole year. The whole year they haven't had him.
And the funniest thing was, I go back to that Eagles game last weekend where they blew them out. But if you watch that game, Dallas drove down the field 2 times. One of them just ended up on a pick 6, and the other time they couldn't score. I kind of looked at that by going, you don't just drive the ball in the Eagles like that with that offense, with who was left there. I saw it a couple weeks ago. They play hard, and I'm not surprised he's going to return. Is he the answer to win a Super Bowl? I don't know, but I don't think you walk away from that not knowing what else is out there.
A couple weeks ago when Tampa Bay needed to win, they were throttling them.
Yep, right.
They've been a really good team. Yeah, I want to give them credit. They've been a really good team down the stretch. Whatever happened in the middle of the year is whatever happened in the middle of the year.
Right.
And that ruined their season. But they did circle the wagons really well. And I think in the end, if you're married to Dak, why would you change the offense? At this was the way I kind of look at it. It's not like it doesn't work. Yep. They do need to upgrade their run game. They have to make upgrades like anybody else. But I left that stadium going, if they run it back, I would buy into that they're back being a playoff contender next year with health. That's how I feel about them.
How do you feel about team facility tours, though?
That was one of my favorite pieces of the year. Jerry's not changing that, by the way. Defiantly not changing that. And I will tell you this, that place, it's so distracting. It is a mix of Times Square, a peep show. Like, it's just, it's so distracting in there. Between the cheerleaders, the screen is so huge. It's loud. I will also tell you this. Their in-game production, amazing.
Of course.
Videos they put, amazing. The videos they put together, you feel like you're at an amusement park when you're there, and it is hard to focus. It's like really hard to focus. At one point, Logan, one of the timeouts, he goes, I think the Netflix crew is here shooting the second season of the America's Sweetheart show. And he goes, I don't want to be in it. And I'm like, they don't want you in it, buddy.
Yeah. We are not watching for you, Logan. I'm sorry.
They're not trying to find you. Yeah. Trust me, they know what their audience is, and it's not you. But it is just, that place is a distraction. Like, it's hard to focus in that joint. Anyway, all right, let me take a quick break. Bray wants to show you at 6:30 to Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. How many Commanders fans will be in Tampa this weekend? One Mike Callow texted me late last night to tell me he already got his plane tickets. All right.
I mean, look, this was the unknown heading into this weekend. Could I have made a trip to LA happen? It would have had to take this game, right? The Sunday night game, most likely, right?
You couldn't have pulled off Monday Nighter out there.
Correct. No.
That would have been only the West Coast Commander fans would have been the ones that showed up at SoFi, because that would have been too tough to pull off. I agree.
Right. But like, looking at the schedule, the way the needle had to be threaded was, I don't really want to go to Philly. Let's just be honest here. I don't really want to go up there for a round one matchup. LA, depends where it's at. Your boy has to work Cap Saturday night. So I was always rooting for no Saturday games, period. And the second that it hit, it was going to be Sunday night. I was like, fire up. I
kind of knew it wasn't going to be Saturday with Houston in, because they are the earmarked Saturday first game.
First game every year.
Every time. It doesn't matter who their opponent is. They're the first game Saturday.
Yep.
And then Saturday night actually, I think, worked out to the NFL's benefit, because Pittsburgh and Baltimore both played on Saturday. So neither are on a short week. And that's actually perfect to just throw them on that. And then you don't get complaints from the other teams, and they can't complain. They've both had a full week to get ready for it.
The only thing I will say is I couldn't remember if they didn't care about conferences on Saturday. So I didn't know if it had to be one AFC, one NFC.
No, I don't think. Yeah, they don't.
Okay, so I just couldn't remember that, and I was kind of worried. Okay, Texans are going to get the first one. They do every single year. And then second, I was worried, oh crap, are they going to get Saturday night? And then I'm kind of screwed. As soon as it hit Sunday night, fired up the old Kayak app, in and out flights, $200. It was the quickest decision I've ever made. I mean, granted, I'm there for I'm there for like 18 hours, but that's exactly how I want to do it. I just want
Are
to be
you
in
on
and
an
out.
airline that charges you to breathe on it or what?
To come back, yes, one of them.
Okay. So pack lightly.
I mean, which I would anyways.
Wear one thing.
Yeah.
Don't
No.
bring anything with you.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
don't do it.
totally.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, and checking out of that one of those airlines was really fun. I'm like, are you sure you don't want anything? It's like,
Yeah.
yes, I am flying back at 5 a.m. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. So the other part of that was getting the first flight out Monday. So when inevitably that airline does screw up, I still have enough time to get back here in a reasonable amount of time. So
all right, I'm excited to see it. I mean, there were a ton obviously in Dallas yesterday, and I expect, like we've been traveling like crazy, and obviously we're the most exciting thing in sports at this point. So, and we've always had a ton of old Redskin fans who live down in the Southeast. So I think there's going to be a ton of Commanders fans there.
There's a two-parter here. I'm going with 3 other people. So we're rolling 4 deep to this. I'm meeting my sister and brother-in-law there as well. And then right away, just looking at how the ticket prices are, this fan base is going to buy those. Like this fan base is going to go like you and I have talked about this, how this area looks at a price of something and just goes, oh, that's not so bad. And I'm looking at ticket prices now. And you know how this works. Yesterday was probably not the day to buy them. They're probably going to drop throughout the week. So I think this
too, we got a lot of snowbirds that live down there now too from this area. This is what happens like when they played the Giants in the playoffs once. There's so many New Yorkers that live down there that they're like, really? And they'll just go to the game, right?
Right. So 100%, I just think there's going to be a ton. And here's the thing too. That franchise, this is the 4th year in a row they've made the playoffs. They won a Super Bowl with Brady. First round's not that important to them. Like this is just how this works in all sports. I'm not trying to knock Tampa fans or anything like that. But they're looking at that going, oh, maybe I'll make a little bit of money and then go to the next game or something like that. Whereas our fan base is, jonesing for another game to go see Jayden. It's got burgundy and gold written all over it for Tampa.
I think so. As for yesterday, they did beat the Saints behind a big second half. I am not surprised that game was close after what happened in New Orleans last week. I thought for sure. I thought for sure as of Monday, I'm like, well, they're just going to blow them out and they'll win their division. Then the things happened on New Year's Eve, New Year's morning in New Orleans. And, the teams often rally behind their cities. So I actually think that they, played very hard for their city. And I give them a lot of credit for doing that. Obviously, it's an adverse situation. Their season's over. They're into a backup quarterback, an interim head coach, and all that stuff. And they could easily have folded up the tents, and they didn't. So I want to give them a lot of credit for doing that. And really, I think probably partially playing for their fans and playing for their city after that tragedy last week. But the Bucs do win. So that was dicey throughout the afternoon watching that score because the Saints were leading, all the way into the second half. And then I'm looking up and the Bears are leading all the way into the second half. And I'm like, what's going on here? I mean, it was a very strange day, but the Buccaneers win. And then did you see Bryce Young go Gilbert Arenas on the Falcons? Have you seen this highlight?
I haven't. I didn't see this yesterday.
He throws the game-winning touchdown and turns around before it's caught and puts his hands up. Bryce Young. After last year, at the beginning of this year, you couldn't have convinced me that that's how this season was going to end for him. So I'm happy for him.
Well, you know why he did that though, right? Because Lamar did it on Saturday night.
He did it too. That's right.
Lamar threw it to the end zone and turned and mean mugged the ref while the touchdown was being caught. It was Gilbert Arenas. It was pure Gilbert Arenas, but he threw it and turned around right away and knew it was a touchdown. So I think Bryce Young was actually copying Lamar on that one.
The hiring of the offseason that I actually felt was the right thing to do was Dave Canales in Carolina. You have to find out if this kid can play. He's been a quarterback whisperer. I don't know if he's a good head coach or not, but he's been a quarterback whisperer. And it didn't look good early. They sat him. They brought him back. Look at him now. He's actually looks like a competent, very good NFL quarterback. Carolina, like Dallas, could have folded up the tents. They didn't. Played hard the whole way down the stretch of the season. We caught them at the right time. It's always not who you play, it's when you play them. We played them late in the season. That would have been a different game than the one we played early in the year against them.
No, 100%. And I mean, look, the whole question of this season for them was, is Bryce Young the guy? I think he has deserved at least one more chance. Maybe you bring in a veteran to compete with him.
Yeah.
But I think he absolutely deserves another shot here. We have not answered that question, whether he's a franchise quarterback or not, but he's earned one more year.
Falcons. Oh God, guys. 44 in a must-win game you gave up.
Oh my
44?
gosh.
Guys.
I want
this is you deserve this. After doing what you did on draft night, you deserved it. Like,
yep.
You couldn't help yourselves. You put him in. I understand why you did it, but this was always like a vulture lingering over the organization the whole time that you invited to the party. So you're like, good luck circling that. And then explaining to the owner, who was pissed the night you did what you did, why you did it and how it didn't work out.
I walked out of the Commanders Falcons game going, we almost DC sports the end of that game, but luckily we have Jayden. Never underestimate Atlanta sporting. Like, that's just their culture overall with all of their teams is just like that. And I'm not surprised this is happening. Now they have to cut Kirk and owe him a bunch of money, a mess. And I'm not surprised at all.
Bears beat the Packers at the buzzer. I was wondering about this. They pulled Jordan Love. So I wasn't sure how they were going to play this, whether they cared enough.
He did get hurt. He got hurt. He started the game. He did get hurt.
He got hurt. Yeah. But same thing, like not serious. They don't think it's serious. And they just pulled him. They pulled him.
He was warming up at the end of the game to come back, but he didn't eventually.
But the Bears beat him at the buzzer. They almost beat him the first time. That was almost a sweep. Remember, there was a block kick in the first game that they played.
Favorite stat of the year right now on the Packers. They are one fingertip away from going 0-6 in the division this year. That they only went 1-5, and it was because of that one block. They did not beat the Lions or the Vikings, and almost didn't beat the Bears. That's. I mean, I know they're the 7 seed. That's a real bad stat if you're not beating your division.
This is difficult to picture them winning next week. Like last year they were rolling when they went into Dallas. And this year they are not. No. We'll just have to see. Logan brought this up, and I thought this was really funny. He goes, the Eagles beat the Giants with their practice team.
Yep.
He's like, don't underestimate how ridiculous that is, because the Pats beat the Bills because the Bills put their practice team out there. The Eagles beat the Giants with their third string quarterback and all backups. The whole thing was backups. And like, he looked at me and he goes, I don't even know how they did it, because you got to have a certain amount of people up just in case there's injuries.
That's right. Exactly. I mean, to me, this one just read all about motivation. Think about how your week went. If you were a Giants player or coach. You won last week. Drew Lock had like a top 10 quarterback performance ever. And all the New York radio stations did was bash you for winning, because now they don't get Shador. So, like, I'm sure they were just like, screw you guys. We're just going to show up here, and we don't really care. I think that's how it went.
It does look like Mahomes cannot get hurt in the playoff. And the return of the Carson Wentz fashion arrival shots are something the NFL has been missing.
Couldn't believe it.
I don't know what blogs he reads or what subscriptions he has, but they're different than everyone else's. Very different.
I literally opened Instagram to see the Carson Wentz arrival picture, and I pulled her on. I was like, guys.
Yeah.
Are you ever going to let this one go? But apparently not. Even when he's the backup in a meaningless game, he gets the red carpet treatment.
So Denver gets in. The Rams indeed did not care about the 3 seed. They played a lot of backups. I wasn't surprised it was close, because, like, when they were like, well, they're playing everybody, I'm like, yeah, but that backup's Jimmy Garoppolo. He's been to the Super Bowl.
They had a chance to win. They had a chance to win.
A normal backup that's playing for them. Albeit, though, I do find it interesting that they literally did not care, and now they get Minnesota. Good luck with that.
I mean, if you're McVay, you are saying, I have to trot out Matt Stafford going up against either Jared Goff or Darnold. And Darnold turned into a pumpkin last night. Like, they blitzed the crap out of him, and he was running for his life. Yeah. So I think McVay today is kind of licking his chops going, I think I made the right decision.
Could be. Let's see. Everybody hates life in the AFC East. Everybody. Let's see. We've got the Aaron Rodgers trick play to Devontae Adams is laugh out loud funny. Yep. And my favorite tweet of that was Don Van Natta from ESPN, where he shows this clip and his caption was "The End." It was great. And they won.
Yeah.
Despite that happening in that game, they won. I did find it odd that they were favorites in that game coming in. When Miami had to win, I was like, wow.
It was Huntley. It was Huntley and not Tua. So, like,
still.
I know. I'm with you.
Still. And then, so they win. And then apparently Tyreek just bailed on the team in the middle. He said, I'm out. And then told everybody afterwards, I'm out. I'm not coming back here. So life for the Wunderkind is over. Like, that's over now. And we'll see how serious Tyreek Hill is about that threat. So they hate life there. And the Patriots folded up. You know, they actually won yesterday, but Robert Kraft had to back away from his promise of keeping Jerod Mayo. So, boy, the AFC East is just everybody, as Lord of the Flies, everybody hates everybody in that division this year.
My favorite conspiracy theory on Jerod Mayo is he was just a placeholder so they didn't get in trouble for tampering to get Mike Vrabel. It's my favorite conspiracy theory that I read yesterday on Twitter. But I also think Jerod Mayo wasn't a good coach in year one. Not to say that he had a great roster, but yeah.
Well, why don't we stay on him for a minute? He has been fired today or last night. He was the first of the openings that weren't obvious. The Bears had fired their coach. The Saints had fired their coach earlier in the season. He is out. I think it's the right thing to do. Like, obviously the team was not performing very well. Obviously there was a lot, if you paid attention, a lot of people just kind of lost the thread on them, but there was a lot of bad decisions in game along the way.
Yep.
There were some weird, like, he said they were going to start Antonio Gibson one game, then they didn't. Then afterwards asked both players why that happened. He didn't have a really good answer for anything like that. Like, there was a lot of very strange things that were occurring. And man, is this egg on the face of Robert Kraft, who fires Belichick, brings in his assistant, says things are going to get better with the assistant to one of the greatest coaches of all time, and a year later has to fire him.
Not only that, remember Mayo was like the anti-Belichick in his press conferences. He was blaming players, blaming coaches, not taking any responsibility for it. And I'm not saying some of that was probably warranted, but you know how this works. You got to take some of the blame on a bad season. And then think about the teams that we just talked about, a couple minutes ago. Carolina played hard down the stretch. The Saints played hard down the stretch. The Cowboys played hard down the stretch. Even the banged up 49ers, they were in every game down the stretch. That team was not in every game down the stretch. And in fact, like halfway through the season was not playing hard. The defense regressed too. Remember, that defense is actually pretty good with some pieces on it. They regressed. And so I think I know there's a lot of people pining for, you didn't give him a chance in year one, but sometimes you just got to look at what he did in the first year, and it wasn't good, and things regressed, and he was bad in the press conferences too. That's a part of the job. I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah. There's a lot of people are going to look at Drake May and think that they can win with him. So there's going to be a line out the door to try to get that job. All right, let me take a quick break. Bray wants to show you ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, as of the taping, here are the other Black Monday things we know about. Your boy Dougie P is out in Jacksonville. They did keep the GM Trent Baalke, but there was some weird Ian Rappaport like stipulation that the new coach will report directly to the owner, which already sounds like set up to fail. Like, why would you say that? Like, to the unknown yet to be hired head coach, that this is how we do things here. Like, sounds great, guys. Sounds great.
Have you guys learned nothing from the Bears? Like, watch what the Bears do and don't do what they do. Clear house. Get both in at the same time and see how it goes. This is so ridiculous. I can't believe teams keep making this mistake. And it's not like the Jags have had like these amazing drafts. They've nailed a couple of their picks, but like, I don't know. Clear house. Shad Khan told me this was the best Jags team ever. And I'm sorry, they didn't make it to an AFC championship like they did 20 years ago. So yeah, I can't believe they're going to make the same mistake, but I can believe it, I guess.
Unbelievably, the Giants put out a statement that they're staying with both Hard Knock Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. They're making no changes.
Thanks, guys.
We're good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No changes. So, I don't work for WFAN. Today's a day I wish I did. Just for today, because I'd like to just sit there and listen to them talk about this asinine decision-making that they would do that off of it. Were you not paying attention to how things went this year? it's documented on Netflix or HBO, whatever. It's
right.
documented on it. Like, we knew in the spring you guys were done. We knew it because you put a camera in there and showed us your decision making, and you went, you know what? It just didn't go our way. Let's run it back.
They made the single worst decision in the entire offseason, over $500,000. Like, how does that not get you fired? I'm sorry. How does it not get you fired? And you walked to your division rival. Like, guys, come on now.
Yeah, we'll have to see who their quarterback is next year, I guess. All right, last thing, and I'll just say this now early in the week. After last night, the Lions will fight you naked in a dumpster, and I think they're the Super Bowl frontrunner. Like, I know how many injuries they have, but it has not slowed them down for a second. And not unlike with Washington, there is something to this will and desire that they're just not going to lose. And so I'm back on their train. I think it's their year. I think they're going to get to the Super Bowl, and we'll see who they play.
My favorite picture, one of my favorite pictures of this season, not including the Commanders, was Aaron Glenn sitting on the bench with like 7:30 left in the fourth quarter, just chilling. Like, my defense is so good. I don't even have to stand up and watch the offense right now. I'm going to sit and take a break for a minute. I mean, that was
destroyed those guys last night.
Darnold
destroyed them.
Darnold looked exactly like he did before he got to Minnesota. So, yeah, I mean, the blueprint was just laid out for the Rams. Blitz the crap out of them, and good luck with that. So, yeah, the Lions are just they're a machine. They're a machine.
They are. My son did notice how yellow Dan Campbell's teeth are last night.
That's true. The dude probably dips or smokes cigarettes. I mean, the dude's crazy. I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude said,
going with that must be all day happening.
What did he say? Hour? What did he say he drinks at Starbucks? It's like a venti black coffee with 6 shots of espresso, and that's the first of the day. Like, dude's crazy. Dude's crazy.
But he's their psycho.
Correct.
He's their psycho. In another market, that wouldn't work, but there, he's a god.
Yes.
Right? They're like, he's like us. He's like us.
Yeah.
All right. I'm back on their train again, unfortunately. And I'm hoping we play them. I'm hoping because
it would be next week.
Very, very, very possible that we play them. I hope that happens. All right, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Brad Buster Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.